Welcome back. I'm going to do another movement of the week today. Today I'm going to talk about the lunge. I actually don't like the terminology lunge. It creates a preconceived notion in your head of what the exercise is going to look like. I prefer MovNat's terminology and I prefer to use split squat. So why use split squat instead of lunge? Because like I said with the lunge, you already have a picture in your head of what a lunge is. But a split squat is a new exercise to you. So you will be able to process a little bit differently what you need to do with the split squat because to you it's brand new. How do you set up for a split squat? What exactly is it? In the bodyweight squat, your feet are parallel, they're side by side. The difference between a split squat and a regular squat is that your feet are offset on a split squat. So one foot will be in front of the other. There's lots of variations to the split squat. Your feet can be very far apart or very close together or somewhere in the middle. It's going to depend on what the situation demands. The other thing that can vary is the height of the feet. So one foot can be higher than the other, and that's going to change the way you have to balance and the way you have to move a lot. For example, if your back foot, like if left foot's forward and my right foot is behind, if my right foot is higher, it's going to make the front of my right leg, my quads, work a lot harder than they would if both feet were at the same level. So minor variations like that can dramatically change the way that an exercise affects you. So when would you use a split squat? A really simple example of a split squat is you have a small object on the ground that you want to pick up. It may not be practical to drop all the way into a full squat, especially if you're walking along and you just happen to see it. So you walk right up to the object, you have one foot in front of the other, you squat down, the object's right by your lead foot, you grab it and you pick it up. And then you stand back up and you just keep on walking. It happens all the time in human history when we were out gathering food. It's a very useful movement. So let's break it down and show you the basics on how to split squat. So for demonstration purposes, I'm going to spend most of my time turned sideways here just so you can see how I'm setting up. So basic split squat, you're going to set up with feet just a little bit apart. You shouldn't feel uncomfortable when you're just starting. So find a position where it's fairly comfortable with your feet set apart. Here, this is probably a little bit wider than shoulder width for me. And this is a good starting point. But don't forget, you can end up in positions with feet really far or really close together. Now, when you do this, you want to try and keep pretty good spinal alignment. And you want to try and keep your weight spread evenly between your feet. You're going to have a little bit more weight on your heel on the lead foot and a little bit more weight on the ball of your foot, on your hind foot. You want to try and keep your heel on the ground as much as possible. Obviously, depending on range of motion, your heel could come up. But as time goes by and you spend more time stretching your calf, you'll be able to keep that heel further and further down. The more down your heel is, the better balance you'll generally have. Once you start getting up into the really high heel position, you have a lot more play in your leg and it's harder to maintain your balance. So for your split squat, like I said, keep your torso fairly erect and you're just going to squat down until your knee touches the ground. Now you can see the further I go down, the more my heel comes up. That's normal, but try and keep your heel down as much as possible for as long as possible. And that'll help you balance in the position better. So here you can see my knee is pretty much in line with my ankle. I like to do this position because if you start doing any split squat work when you're on a narrow beam, I'll bring that up in a later video on balancing, then this is a much easier position to get into than say something like this where you're much more stretched out. It's a lot harder to balance with your feet further apart. So for the simple split squat to start with, I like to bring it down so that your knee is pretty much in line with your ankle. When you get down to the bottom, don't smash your knee into the ground. You want nice light contact. My knee's touching the ground, but really all my weight's back here. and it's spread pretty even. I got the weight here across the ball of my foot, my hind foot, and then I have most of my weight back here on the heel, and the ball of my lead foot is just kind of touching the ground to maintain balance in position. And then when you come up out of the bottom, shift your weight, shift your knee up off the ground so your weight all shifts to your foot. Then you're going to push with both feet into the ground and come up nice and tall. One more time. Slow and controlled, and back up. And when you go closer, you'll see it's going to look a little different. In this position, I don't really even have to put my knee on the ground. So this is actually a good comfortable rest position. If you're walking, you just need to take a quick break. You just kneel down real quick, and then it's real fast to get back up. If your feet are further apart, you're going to see this leg trail way out behind me, and my knee's not really going to tuck under me much. And now you can see it's harder for me to keep my weight on this trailing foot, and there's more weight on my knee. This is going to put a lot more strain on this quad muscle here, just because your quad has to work a lot harder from that position. I like split squats to work up to pistol squats. Pistol squats are the single leg squat. The reason I like the split squat to work up to that is because with minor variations, let me change up legs here. With minor variations, you can shift your weight further over to your lead leg to put a little bit more stress on your lead leg and build up more strength. So if I'm here in this position, instead of pushing off really hard with my trailing leg and with my lead leg, I can shift my weight forward so it's more onto my lead leg and then drive up mostly with my lead leg. You'll see that my upper body leans forward a little bit, and now I'm putting more weight onto my lead leg, and I can focus on driving with just my lead leg. So if you have one leg that's stronger than the other, it's a good way to kind of get a little extra work onto your weaker leg. It's also a really good way to slowly build up strength so that you can do a pistol squat if that's one of your goals. Pistol squat is a pretty handy movement, which I'll cover here later. We want to get the basic stuff covered first. But the split squat can do a lot to help you get there. Now I have this little platform here, so a minor variation you can do is put one foot, trailing foot, up on the platform, and then when you squat down, you're going to get a much larger range of motion out of this hind leg. Your knee can drop down below your foot. So it's going to, again, make the quad work harder, just like putting your foot further behind you would. So these are all tiny little tricks you can do to slightly tweak how you work on your split squat. All these minor variations affect your ability to balance in the position. It will train your hips, your knees, and your ankles to work in a larger variety of situations, which is always a good thing. So play with the split squat a little bit, vary your foot width, vary your foot height, and even vary how much your feet are offset. So here, I'll step up here. So here you can see that my feet are fairly close together. The narrower you put your feet, you'll see the harder you have to work to balance, and the wider you put your feet, the easier it is to balance. So that's another variation you can play with on the split squat. So get out there, give it a try, add it into your workouts. If you have any questions, comment below and I'll get back to you. If you like the video, like it and share it. Please subscribe to the channel, it helps me bring you more content. In the meantime, keep your life in motion.